Hey ladies and gents, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 to What If Asta Had Dark Magic. Now, where I left off, Asta pretty much saved Noelle using his dark blade to pretty much absorb some of the magic around where Noelle was and pulled her out, kind of like. That's pretty much what he did. So now they both land on the ground, and Noelle does her, because she's literally on top of Asta at this point, so Asta, or Noelle rather, would pretty much be kind of really surprised. She starts to blush a little bit, but then she regains her composure and is just like, I am royalty, get off of me, you commoner! And that's pretty much what she does. So they get back to the little hideout, and Magna and Yami go gambling with the head of the other village, and obviously they lose really badly. And when they do lose, they pretty much have to do this village chief a favor. So they have to go to the village and pretty much take out all of these boars, magic weird hog, boar, pig thingy-mabobbers. So they send Asta, Noelle, and Magna there. So Asta can fly, and he has Noelle on the back of his broomstick with him, because Magna doesn't really feel like taking her because she was kind of a freaking jerk to him. So she gets on the broomstick with Asta, and they pretty much take off like that. So after they do that, they both pretty much end up at one place. Or, not one, where they all end up at the village. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore. So they end up at the village, and they notice that some of the hogs are already dead, but they pretty much take out the rest of them and are now going actually to the village. So just to check up on everybody and talk to the village chief and tell them that yeah, they did their job. But when they get there, they notice that there's this mist, and everybody there, including Asta, notices that the mist has a ton of mana running through it, and it's just full of magic, which means it's a spell that was casted by somebody, and all of them realize at the exact same time that this village is under attack. And Magna is the first to jump down, and Asta swiftly follows. With Noelle following them, they show up at the village entrance, and Asta uses his sword to pretty much nullify the magic. Or not nullify all of it, but nullify very small areas where he's slicing, and he slices hundreds of thousands of times just so he can clear his way through, and they eventually do get to the village central area where everybody is being held hostage, and Magna notices that the village chief and his old friend is laying there on the floor dead. Now obviously he is very much pissed off by this because he was his friend, and he was kind of his dad / uncle. He had that kind of figure over him. So he gets really mad and he starts throwing fireballs at the ice magic users and his underlings, but they don't really do anything because the ice magic user is actually really powerful, at least compared to everybody there but Asta, because Asta had the anti-magic sword before, but he doesn't now, but he did before, which made it a lot easier for him to take people. It makes that ability of his makes it a lot easier to take people out because they don't realize that, oh, he can literally slice through any type of magic no matter how strong it is, kind of thing. So when Asta starts joining the battle too, and he starts actually managing to slice the ice crystals that are pretty much being shot at him and all those different things, until he turns around for the briefest moment and he's about to get stabbed. But this is where Noelle unlocks another spell. Her dragon's her sea dragon's cradle. That's what the little defensive spell she has, and that surrounds Asta, and the ice just kind of deflects off or melts, and pretty much Asta's just fine. Asta now leaves the sea dragon's cradle and looks back and says, "Thank you," and now he continues his battle pretty much. So with their battle continuing, Asta has a pretty significant upper hand now that Noel can also defend him in the battle as well. So with their teamwork, they actually managed to take out, they managed to bind this ice magic user, and he's no longer a threat to them. So after they bind him, he actually then wakes up, and he looks at everybody, and Asta's like, we're gonna bring you guys back to the village, and we're gonna get every single little ounce of information out of you. And now the ice magic user just kind of looks up and smiles and says, you won't be getting any information out of us. And he uses a spell, his last spell, because he turns himself and all of his comrades into ice, and then they shatter into millions of tiny little pieces, killing themselves. Now Asta's looking at this, and he's wondering why they did that. There was no point to and there was no reason to end your life there. They would have questioned them, and then they pretty much just would have been thrown into like some kind of like jail or dungeon, but they didn't have to die, especially not in that way. The other people didn't even have a choice in whether or not they wanted to die. He just killed them. So now, obviously, Asta's kind of pissed by this, and now he's trying to figure out what he can do for like the village, and they get rid of all the mist inside of it when they take out all of the users of the magic, and they pretty much leave because there's nothing else they can do other than take out the rest of the boars, because obviously neither one of them is going to become like the village chief or anything like that. So the members of the village actually elect a new chief, or they elect a new chief, and that's pretty much where the end of that mission is. Still with the chief of the village ends up dying, and it's kind of sad. Now, obviously, they head back, and Magna tells Yami the news of how he's dead, and Yami's obviously kind of saddened by this because, again, he was his friend, and so obviously he's not exactly in a great mood right now. So now they go to the Wizard King because he requested to see them, and he actually gives Yami a golden star for how well they did on the mission. And he appoints Asta a new rank. He appoints Asta to a Rookie Knight 3rd class. I think it's Rookie or Novice. It's the very first one, except he moves up 2 pretty much places. So now he outranks Magna and Luck, technically, in the book, but he still thinks of them as like his superiors, kind of. So he doesn't really think much of getting a promotion, and because he's still, again, in the novice or rookie or whatever it is ranks, so it's not too big of a deal that he did that. So now they go back, or he and Yami go back, and they're like, yeah, we got a golden star, how cool is that? And they put it up, and Yami's like, yeah, now we're up to like -30 or something. Or no, I think it was like -70, I don't know. They're still very much in the negatives. And now Asta is like, wait a minute, -30? And Yami just looks at him and says, yeah, you can get golden stars, but they can also be taken away. And it's just like, Asta knew he had something coming for him with that. So he was like, okay, well, we have to get as many golden stars as we can so we can catch up with the Golden Dawn. And that's pretty much where they begin their next mission, because the Wizard King tells Yami that there's actually a new mission, and this mission is to go into a dungeon, pretty much just to take all the powerful magic items from it, and make sure that nobody from like the Diamond Kingdom or any like other different kingdoms that are their enemies can actually get a hold of these. So now they end up going, and they go with Luck and Noel. And Luck is bouncing around and, stomping on all the traps and all those different things. And obviously this is kind of pissing Asta and Noel off, because they're like, you could have killed us, you freaking... And then Asta's just using his sword to actually like cut all the traps and different things like that. And now it's time for the big trap that Asta steps on, or that Noel, I don't remember who steps on it first. that one of them stepped on and actually like trapped them. This is where Yuno usually comes in and saves them, but Asta actually manages to cut it because has dark magic, so he can use powers like that and his dark sword to cut it, or like his dark blade lifeless slash, I think that's what it's called. So now when Yuno does show up, he's just like, why are you here, Asta? And Asta's like, we were sent on a mission. And now what is his name? Klaus. That's what. Okay, so and now Klaus is just like, why did the Wizard King even send this many people on this mission? Or he's like saying like, we could have handled this easier on our own. Why did he send the Black Bulls of all the squads? And he's obviously pretty angered by this, and he pretty much just tells them, stay out of our way. And they then leave using Mimosa's plant guiding whatever that is, and Asta and Noelle then leave, and they're trying to go find Luck, and they're sensing this, both of them are sensing this giant magic, and they then show up, and Luck is fighting this weird smoke guy. And this is where this normal thing happens, where Asta is pretty much giving Luck his like talking to, just like, yeah, you can fight on your own, but that doesn't mean you can be as strong as if you fight together with your friends. You know the scene I'm talking about. So he does that, and they start using teamwork to actually fight this general of the Diamond Kingdom, I think is what he actually was. And they're doing a really good job, even better than they were. Except for when they get trapped in the giant smoke screen, because Asta doesn't not have magic anymore. I think that's how I word that. And he can actually be sensed of where he is instead of just not, like, because the smoke guy could sense everybody but Asta, because Asta didn't have magic. That's why he could actually finish him and like send him flying out of the smoke and into the open for everybody to almost finish him off before he like ran away. So now he can't really do that this time. So they're trying to figure out how they're actually going to manage to do that. And so what they do is use a ton of Asta's lifeless black blade lifeless slash, and he pretty much sends like 20 of those things almost like instantaneously, one after another, just, and they actually do manage to knock him out of the smoke because he can't dodge all of them, and he's pretty much stuck there now. Or not stuck there, but he pretty much gets sent flying out of it, and now Asta and Luck and Noelle both all jump out of the mist or smoke, and they go and pretty much are about to finish him off, but he runs away and he leaves. So now all of them are sensing this other really powerful magic, and they're starting to head towards it. This is obviously where Yuno, Klaus, and Mosa are fighting the Diamond Kingdom member Mars, like I think he's like genetically modified or whatever. He's weird. He's like the Diamond, you know what I'm talking about. So they're fighting Mars, and now Asta, Luck, and Noelle show up, and Yuno is about to be pretty much wrecked, like completely killed by a giant diamond sword. And when this is actually about to happen, this is where Asta jumps in, and he's using his black blade, and he doesn't cut it completely in half. He just stops it with his raw physical strength alone. He completely stops the giant diamond blade from going down overhead using his dark magic dark blade. And after Asta does this, Yuno is insanely, like, he just stopped that. My most powerful wind magic couldn't even, like, deflect that the tiniest bit. He just stopped it in its tracks, just by using his strength alone, not even his magic. Now, Asta, using you know that now I think about it, he might have two swords, because using his normal sword that he uses for, like, before you got unlocked the spell of, like, the lifeless slash, so he can dual wield his normal sword and his dark blade that he is a spell. So Asta starts dual wielding. With one hand he's using to block, and the other he's using dark blade, lifeless slash, and different spells like that. And quickly he realizes that his attacks aren't really doing anything against the diamond guy, or against Mars, because they're not strong enough to like cut through or do anything really to the diamonds. So now Asta gains a new spell in his grimoire. This spell is called Dark Magic Dark Beam. And what this is pretty much just a giant beam of like the dark. It's pretty much just a beam of darkness that gets shot straight in the direction. It's kind of like his other attacks, just more powerful and more like densely packed magic power that could like probably cut through even diamond. See where I'm going with this? Yeah. So he now uses his new spell, and he seemingly takes out Mars in one shot. And now they are trying to go through the barrier. And they realize that since Asta doesn't have an anti-magic sword, he can't really get into it. So what he does is using his sword, which, like I stated before, is kind of like Yami's black hole, just around the very specific area. So like the areas where he slashes, it like pretty much cuts through of this like magic barrier. So he is using his sword, kind of like in Star Wars when they use the lightsabers to cut like a giant hole in a wall and then they could like walk through it. It's kind of like that. So they all walk through this now, and they're looking at all this treasure. And there's this legend, or there's this artifact in the back that the anti-magic bird is pointing Asta towards. And Asta follows it back there, and he's looking at this item. And he opens it, and a bunch of darkness pretty much like swarms over his entire body. And there's this weird creature standing in front of him. It looks kind of similar to what Asta would imagine a demon to look like, except now it's like a female demon. It's kind of weird. It's like he's never actually seen anything like this before. He's wondering what it is, but he can't really do anything with it. All it does really is just look at him. And Asta's really freaked out by this, and this is where he's about to say his first word of the thing, and there's a giant crash. And Mars now walks through the door, and he's forming a giant diamond golem around him. And now, this is where everybody starts fighting him again, except this time Asta, when he gets sent flying through the wall, and Mars is about to kill Mimosa. And this is where Asta jumps back into the fight. But this time, it's not with his anti-magic sword. There's this weird fairy demon looking thing flying above his shoulder, complete darkness around his entire body, and Asta now does something that he never really realized he ever had the power to do. He uses his black sword, or dark magic black sword, and completely cuts the golem. He literally slices the thing in half. And now he points the sword at Mars. And this is when everything starts collapsing. Now, obviously, that as well got his spirit, but he didn't really have the chance to actually use its power yet. So he doesn't know what this wind spirit is. But he did see that Asta had a very similar power to what he got, except it wasn't really to the same extent. Or it wasn't the exact same thing. So now they all pretty much leave, and they're flying out, and everybody leaves, and they head back to their respective areas that they go. And Asta's trying to figure out what that power was. He's trying to actually master it. He's trying to actually even just summon the creature. And after probably about a week's worth of training, he does. He can summon well, not summon it, but the creature flies around him, and it's pretty much constantly there. He doesn't learn how to merge with it yet, but he knows now what this thing actually is. It's a darkness spirit, kind of like how, had the wind spirit. Asta has the darkness spirit. Now, I'll leave this part off here. I'll see you guys in the next part. Peace out. Later. Bye.